Hey everybody, Adam Savage. I'm at Spectral Motion in LA with Pete Abrahamson and Mark Setrakian. How are you guys?
Awesome, thank you.
So good to see you. Now, the reason there's a plethora of mecha gloves in this shot, this is the one I built 10 years ago, and this is the original.
Are we sure?
These guys, thank you. These guys built the original along with a host of You were saying that like everyone at Spectral Motion had some hand in this at some point.
That's absolutely true. Yeah, every department was involved with this thing. Yeah.
Okay, so you built a real mecha glove. I think I have some understanding of what you went through, but I'd like you to talk me through the insanity of this crazy detailed build.
Well, I should say it started with a design by Ty Ruben Ellingson.
I love that picture.
And the interesting thing about it was that, well, I printed it out life size.
Yeah.
And the glove part of it, he had drawn it very form-fitting, like a very form-fitting glove.
Right.
So I just butchered the proportions. I blew up the size of the hand. I kind of like just in 2 dimensions worked out what the proportions needed to be and went from there. And it was really like, there were no like mechanical drawings. You just kind of winged it.
Wow.
You know, started with an aluminum tube for the structure of it and went from there. And
yeah, that was kind of the thing is you said, I've got this tube and a Kadon bearing that fits it.
Right. Right.
And that kind of like we knew we needed to make this spin.
Right.
And it was sort of like, okay, these are our constraints. Where do we move from?
Oh my
and
gosh.
so we built off of that.
Right. Yeah, can we pull this off?
Yeah, let's do that. Let's move the stand over here. And let's take this baby off.
Stand down.
Right, I got it.
Okay. Oh my God, the stand weighs a lot. I realize how much.
Oh, this is the first time these are meeting. I had lots of access to this, and Mike kept sending me pictures and data that I needed. But, oh my God, it's so much fun to see these things together.
There's a whole armature wire hand inside this.
Oh, there is. Oh, right,
Yeah.
for the posing.
Look, that's cracked. Well, so laboratory glass.
Did you have them custom made?
Yes, and I found all the original paperwork for your completest collection. This is magnet wire, you know, from when you could buy magnet wire at the local electronics store.
Amazing. Yeah, look at how different the coating is,
colors
the
are
lacquer
different.
coating from these years.
Yeah, this is the one place where I feel like the color is more intense in the original version.
Yeah.
There's like this sort of it's very desaturated.
It is.
You know, it's very pale. It's very the contrast is low.
Well, part of that is because this thing got soaked in water for a couple of weeks.
It did, yes.
Rain on.
Yeah, a night shoot with movie rain, which was below freezing when we were shooting. So
Oh, no way.
the extras were walking around and icicles were forming on their helmets and. Trees were loading up with ice, and actually trees fell during the production because they were loading up with ice and just getting pulled down.
You weren't told that this would be working wet.
I suppose if I had read the script very carefully, I might have deduced that somehow, but that was not something that anybody ever actually said. It's like, oh yeah, make sure it's waterproof.
I will tell you, like, I made one of these.
Yes.
And then I cast it and had 5 resin ones vacuum metallized.
Right.
And I did a bunch of those efficiencies where I could. I had one of these that Mike lent me, and I cast that for those. But when I think about this sheer labor of all 5 of these with their knurling and all of their separate operations, it is an intense amount of work. Did this go on for months?
You need
I
to
wouldn't say
imagine
months.
Setrakian standing at the lathe with the copper wire, loading it as it's spinning.
It's really hard to do.
Yes.
I was really surprised how hard it was to build a system. I had a buck for this that held it and like feeding the wire on in a consistent manner. And then holding it while because I didn't want to use a lot of crazy glue or CA glue because when I put this on, it would fog.
Exactly, right. Yeah, so, by the time you get to the 5th one, you kind of got it down.
It's totally true.
Yeah. So, Pete and I were just sort of like reminiscing about some of these pieces because there's a lot of like, kind of like we're riffing on each other. So this was an interesting part. I think Peter did the initial machining on this, and it's like, okay. And then like, he's an early riser, I am not. I'd come in at night and I'd like pull the thing apart, stick it back on the lathe, put it on the rotary table, like put all these like radial vents into it.
Dude, I spent a week just like diagramming out the order of operations for that lid.
Yeah.
Because there are so many different things that I had to do.
Well, you probably had to pull it off the machine and put it back on again a bunch of times
many times.
because that's how the real one was done.
Many times.
I'm noticing that my cuts are all a little bigger. And I went above the case instead of into the inside of it.
Those cuts were cut from the other side. So this was facing down in the machine when it was done.
Oh man! And there's all sorts of stuff going on in here.
Yeah, there's a whole servo under this little hat.
Wait, this spun?
Yeah, this spins.
Oh, I didn't even realize that.
Yeah, this thing spins, and then the vinegaroon, which is an insect which is embedded in resin here, that does not move. But we talked about it. Knurls everywhere. Like almost every part has a knurl in it. So this part's knurled, that's knurled, these are knurled.
Oh, that's knurled.
Yeah.
Wait a minute, I'm not sure I have that. Oh yeah, no,
yeah,
that
you
was
do.
Okay.
I mean, the gauge of your knurl is not authentic, but pretty close.
Yeah, and also I don't have flathead screws in here. I got to put them in there.
Those are kind of like,
Weren't
I don't
they
know,
cheese heads or whatever?
They're cheese heads. Yeah.
I even figured out which two vacuum tubes you scavenged for the interior of some of these.
Yeah, Apex Electronics.
Yeah, no, I figured you went to
So
Apex.
some of them are authentic vacuum tubes, but this one, if I'm not mistaken, is something that I just made out of etched brass.
Yeah, it's a plastruct fencing.
Right.
Yeah, and there's two different kinds because that is a different plastruct fencing. That's a different one than that one.
Yeah.
That was again. I was like, they probably didn't etch this custom for the film. So I was like, plastruct and brass. Okay, fencing, and then
Right.
this was the most fun research project I've ever done because there was an endless number of things to figure out.
I wanted to ask you, how did you come up with mummified frogs? Did you sculpt those?
I did. Mike actually had a demo frog in a little tube base that was not correct, but like for his desk, and he sent it to me.
Oh,
and
okay.
I thought of pulling it apart and casting the frog, but I didn't want to pull it apart.
Right.
And so I basically just carefully sculpted my own. And actually, I repaired them for this because the ones I made 10 years ago were filled with water and they had rotted and rusted and you couldn't see anything. So I took them out, recast the frogs, repainted them, and potted them in resin.
Right.
Which
Which
I
I think this is the same thing, right? This is resin now.
I feel like that is resin now.
I think
Well, see
originally
how
we had them in
my
liquid. 'Cause
glass
I remember
have flats on the tops.
Yeah, I'm curious.
This one is perfectly dome shaped, but these have flats.
I went with a company called Adams and Chittenden that does all the scientific glass for Cal. And actually, I literally did these last week, so they're just held in with butyl.
If I'm not mistaken, I think I specified these flats because these are full dome. That's a full dome. This is flat. That's flat.
Which is more of a radio tube kind of look,
yeah,
too.
and I believe that was actually in Ty Rubin's design, that the domes weren't all identical. Some of them had like a little flat, some of them were dome shaped.
Now, inside these guys, on here, there are these little plungers, which I also never got around to replicating.
Yeah.
that was my nightmare.
Yeah.
Were they,
You
they
should
were
explain.
practical.
They are.
are.
They worked. So as this thing spins,
And let's just go about let's talk about the spinning before we even get to
So
its spinning comes off this tiny little gearhead motor.
yeah, kind of ridiculous. So there is a small pinion gear on this motor, which drives a somewhat larger gear, which then drives a huge gear, which is the full diameter of the bearing.
And I remember looking at that gear and thinking, I wonder where they got that. And I asked you guys where you got that gear. And I think you told me.
McMaster car rack.
So took a piece of rack and ran it through a roller and rolled it into a circle and then soldered it together.
And so that's like 5 pieces of rack?
No, it's one piece of rack.
One piece of rack. Okay.
And then soldered it to this disc,
Right.
which then went into the rotary table and got the filigree,
But you had
built
to,
into it.
But you, oh God, I'm just getting so.
Had to do a really good job.
Yeah, but
So-
you had to get the teeth to match exactly.
Yes.
So I had to figure out, I went through the whole process of pitch diameter of the gear and solving where I would get to be able to make the teeth mate perfectly. And I had to do all that process and milling, like just shaving the two ends so that when they're going to come together, I'm going to have a perfect.
It's the right tooth spacing. Yeah. Did you cut at a valley or a peak?
I cut into a valley
Yeah.
so that I had this lower section to sort of join to.
Fair.
Right. I think the other thing I would say about that is that we had to roll quite a bit of extra, so that you're cutting curved
Yes, of
sections
course,
off.
right,
You're
yeah.
not trying to, because the ends are flat otherwise.
Yeah. And it spins beautifully in the film.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a whole thing.
Yeah, it works great.
So now it spins, but there's also these plungers and they move too.
Yes, they do.
So in there's a couple of wipers, basically. There's a couple of strips of conductive, probably.
They're brass.
Brass.
It must be brass.
And I took Servo's little teeny, like Futaba 33s or whatever they were at the time, and broke the rotational tab that limits their travel.
So you made
and
them all
basically
360.
I basically made them gearboxes.
Sure.
And they are mounted underneath here that pull down on a string, and it pulls this little spring section. And it was meant, like, one of the things Mark kept driving for is we can't have it be perfectly even.
I didn't want a sine wave. I wanted it to be like violent.
So like
it winds up and then it
winds
lets
up
go.
and the spring drives it to pop back up again.
So is it like a little
wind and
cam
pop.
catcher for
Yeah.
this?
Yes.
And then we had, what was it, powder or something, so that when they popped, you'd actually see a little puff of something would come out. Oh
my God.
That didn't make it into the film, but that was just kind of how insane we were going with it. And you can see that some of these kept their little foil thin.
Those look like you hand hammered those.
No, they were machined crazy thin, and then some of them just broke out, and like
Yeah.
this one got dented. But they're just so thin that they're almost like aluminum
No,
foil.
they look like they're almost foil.
Yeah.
There's one thing I didn't match on the original, but I think we all had feelings about this. I chose the Mignola ball, which was
Yes.
an early iteration of this ball
Right.
on the real one.
So the story behind the Mignola ball is that in the design there was this ball that had all of these, Mike Mignola runes on it.
Yeah.
So I took a ball and I gave it to Mike and I said, "Okay, draw the runes on the thing," and he did. And then I took it and I got a Dremel and I went in and just etched over his lines and created this, and it's gorgeous. I love that thing.
It really is gorgeous. Nobody draws those symbols quite like Mike Mignola.
Very distinct.
Yeah. I met him last year at Comic-Con. I've met him before, but I got to tell him about this.
Right.
That it's in. You guys ended up doing some whole pump system in there.
Yes. So there's like a tiny RC fuel pump that is pumping water with a little dish soap with a bunch of mica powder in it. So it became this kind of whirling, like surface of Jupiter looking thing, which you can clearly see kind of energizing in the reveal shot of the glove. And I don't remember exactly why Guillermo chose to go with that instead of the ball, but I think maybe part of the problem was we couldn't get the ball to tumble the way we wanted to.
Right.
And
You wanted it to tumble
wanted it to be-
dynamically, not just
yeah,
to spin in place or
right.
something.
And it was it just looked a little too much like a fish tank toy.
Sure.
So this was a little more magical looking in
I
context.
Thankfully, the same pump.
Yeah.
Oh,
We
really?
only had to pull the ball out and then just put the liquid in.
Right,
so
right,
we
right.
already had the pump system to be able to make that ball spin.
Oh, I love that.
I want to point out one thing. I'm noticing our attempts to make it lighter.
Oh, I totally remember in my pictures,
Seeing this.
I started adding that to mine, and then I'm like, no, they're trying to lighten it up, and I don't care.
Yeah, right.
Because I first caught it here. Is you can see.
Oh, yeah, you can see the-
right. And I was looking at the picture, and I'm like, this thing has been perforated, and then I
Yep.
realized it was all. So yeah, you can see mine is not.
Oh, look, yours comes apart. And it's completely, that's heavy. That is some heavy stuff right there.
Yeah, it's a heavy prop, and the actor wore this for days.
Yeah, it was on a C-stand eventually. But I remember him saying, "Why is it so heavy?" So I guess the next thing that we should talk about is the Milanba motivator.
The Milanba motivator.
So,
oh man.
So named after Scott Milanba.
Scott Milanba. Okay.
Scott
For some
is-
reason, I had said it in my head. It was Mike.
It's Scott. Scott
Scott.
Milanba.
Thank
So
you. I will not get that wrong again.
Scott, this was one of those things. It was clearly drawn in Ty Rubin's design.
Yeah.
It's like, all right, well, I can see what has to be done there. You there. Anyway, Scott took over this thing and machined the entire thing. He machined both the instrument, the body of the instrument itself, and also the valves.
And this is a fully functional kind of music box thing in which this camshaft, which is hand built.
Yeah, that's right. So it's actually
Look at that.
is it broken? No, it's not broken.
It's disconnected because there used to be the Servo
I
City
see.
plastic chain that went down,
Yeah.
and we had another one of those little Copal motors buried inside there to drive that.
So
I eventually want to make my own Milanba motivator out of aluminum with a working motor, but I haven't gotten there yet.
So what I think you will find especially insane is that there's all of these little brass bars, and you can see there's alternating shafts that have been soldered into it. So it is it is a valve, like a valve timer or a crankshaft.
Yeah.
It's exactly a crankshaft in miniature. And the fact that it's straight and that it rolls in those bearings and that the valves all function, it's
insane. I had a theory about that. And my theory was, in the pictures I was looking at, I could see that these were little brass leaves with 2 holes in them.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, oh, how would you make sure the center shaft is straight? Well, I would do it by actually building it all on the center shaft and then cutting it out where I needed it cut out.
That may have been how he did it.
I figured as much.
Yeah, because it's so perfectly done.
Yeah, it's really, and then these, so I ended up hiring my friend Sean Charlesworth, who drew this entirely as a 3D printable item. And I'm happy to share the files with you.
I already have one.
And the reason, actually, one of the reasons we're here is because my 10-year-old resin print was just pulling itself to pieces, especially because I had big cables hanging off here like these guys.
Yeah.
And this is now printed in SLS, and it's much more solid.
It looks great.
And I also made a second one of these for Guillermo because he was pissed that he didn't get this one. And his is also probably falling apart, so I need to fix that.
Right.
What else haven't we covered?
Well, I'm impressed with the level of detail on the soft work also. All of the soft work, the quilting and everything was done by Claire Fluin.
I was talking to Claire off camera earlier, and I told her as I was sewing this, I was thinking to myself, man, I hate quilting. And she said, I remember having that thought while making this glove.
Yeah.
Did yours fall off? We had sort of a mesh on the backside of that wing servo.
I have that mesh somewhere.
Right.
It might have been something I just never got to. There were a few things that got lopped off as I was rapidly trying to get this done by some deadline.
So another detail that was, I think, my addition to it is the demon dial.
I love the demon dial.
So the demon dial, Peter and I are both H.P. Lovecraft fans, and so we decided to have this escalation of Lovecraftian demons. So it starts with Dagon. The next one is
Yggdrasil?
It's Azathoth.
All right.
Next up, is that Hastur?
I think Hastur's in there, and then
Yog-Sothoth, Cthulhu, and it redlines at Hellboy. Yeah. And there is actually a servo back there, so the needle does drive.
I have a servo in here too.
Right.
I have never gotten around to building. Again, there's a possibility I can get this spinning too, because I have those same Kadon bearings.
Right.
It's just that once I got it done, I was like, okay, I'll eventually get around to adding that. And
Done is so seductive. So
it's so subjective. Yeah. Absolutely. I also
subjective and seductive.
I tell you, I'm noticing a couple things. I'm one size too big on these non-countersunk screw heads.
Right. They're partially countersunk. So you'll see they're in there, but they're also proud of the surface. So it gives it a little bit of dimension without just being a non-countersunk screw, which you really nailed it, except that the heads are a little bit big.
That's it. The heads are a little bit big, so I'm going to go one size down.
In fact, it almost seems like your entire dial is like a size bigger than mine.
It could act. That could.
I mean, you're.
Oh yeah.
You have a.
Oh, look at that.
I'm feeling inadequate now. Your dial is so much bigger than mine.
I don't know how I messed that one up, but
it looks good.
You know, one of the things
it's easy to read. It's a large print demon dial.
There's one thing. As I was putting this together, I really specifically remember cutting this piece. There's one piece of aluminum on here that bends all the way around to here, and cutting that way oversized and continuing to add the tubes on it to figure out what shape it needed to be.
Yes.
Right. Which is actually, you did a better job than we did because ours doesn't go all the way around. It stops here and overlaps. So
wow! I didn't somehow I even missed that.
This encompasses this entire thing, and then the part that wraps around the hand is a whole separate piece.
Look at that! I didn't get that.
You just made it more exciting for yourself.
Guys, like you know, when I talked to you in the past about this, your evident pleasure at this build, despite its longevity and intensity, is really apparent, and it's so beautiful. I like, my hat is off to you. This is one of the most beautiful props ever made.
Thank you.
In my years of filmmaking, this to me is one of my favorite things I've ever worked on or built.
Wow.
This is like been one of those ones that you just go, did you see Hellboy? Like that's all I like. It's like, and it wasn't like, did you see those 3 frames in the dark and then my puppet moved, right?
Which is like
no,
usually what you're
no, it was
asking.
Guillermo's like, here.
Right.
Are you seeing it?
And there are these great things that happen when you're wearing the glove and you turn the glove and the thing is spinning and it either counter rotates away from you or it goes with you. It like, and all of that wound up in the film. You know.
Oh man. And it's really, I have these pictures you guys took from back then wearing this.
Right.
And I noticed there's only 2 shots you could take. It's like this one, or this one, or this one.
Or it's like, I can't hold it up anymore.
I haven't picked up this one yet though.
Well, there is a.
I just would love to feel how heavy it is.
Yeah, try it. It might be lighter than
It's
yours.
actually, no, it's actually maybe just about a pound heavier.
Well, of course, yours is made of, has some.
I also have a lot less. Oh, yeah.
Oh, may I?
Please.
Wow.
I would be honored. Yeah, you can
Find
miss
my
the
way
wiring
through the wiring there.
Exactly.
Find my way into the fingers. There we
There
go.
you go.
Oh yeah. So, and I got to find the gap for the elbow, which is.
Oh, right.
think-
Yeah, it's
I
kind
think-
of under there.
Yeah. Where is?
Where is it?
No, it's.
Oh, it's there.
Is it?
Maybe I have it.
Oh
clocked
yeah,
wrong.
yeah. It's just flipped around like that. Oh no, there is no gap for my elbow. So this is the only pose I can do.
Oh man. You know what I have never sent you guys is I made exploded diagrams of many of the sub-constructions of this. Maybe not that pose.
He's summoning.
Okay,
Let him summon.
No, this is a no, not that pose.
I'm sorry.
All right.
You're conjuring something from hell.
Yes, exactly. Perhaps literally. This is great. This brings back pain in my shoulder.
How long were you guys filming this prop on the set?
Well, God, it was like 2 weeks. It was something like 2 weeks.
Wow.
There was in that sequence. There was a lot of action with Cronin, the villain character, and we had a bunch of extras in Nazi soldier uniforms, a bunch of extras in American soldier uniforms. We had rain. We had a lot of rain.
The rain, like, I think people don't even realize that when you can see rain, it's like twice as heavy as any rain you've ever been in.
Yeah, that's true, and it also has a lot to do with the lighting. And if the lighting isn't motivated, it's like there's not light to light the rain, so you just have to add more rain. So.
I'm curious about waterproofing. Did you have any issues with that on set after all the rain?
So it didn't have any electrical failures.
Amazing.
It just got really wet and really heavy, even heavier.
Oh, right, of course.
Even heavier, yeah.
And then drying that out is just time.
It's just like a hairdryer. I think there's like, in the special edition CD, behind the scenes, it's like, sorry, DVD, behind the scenes, like a hairdryer. Here I am, just blowing the freaking thing off. So, and I think that's the reason why you see some of the understructure clearly through the leather, because the leather was basically softened and then formed onto the understructure because it was wet.
Right. Oh, and that gives me a whole idea about how to, because I really now want to take this back and desaturate its color.
Like distress it a little bit.
Bring it back to bring it down to this.
It's very warm. I mean, even the paint details.
Yeah. Well, and this I built out of resin and then cast, but I definitely want to make one out of aluminum. Yeah. Again, I have a million plans. We'll see what I get to. And this really does encompass it's like all the different art forms of our industry.
Yeah.
It's like a little bit of everything.
A little bit of everything, yeah. Well, a lot of some things, and a little bit of everything. But like even the frogs, I remember them having more like yellow, more like poison dart frog coloration, but
I went with this kind of, I
bluish.
ignored the original, and then I'm also going to add some lights on the bottom of those.
Oh, nice.
I think they could be lit.
Yeah, I agree.
That would be nice.
Yeah.
All right. We've been doing this also off camera for the last couple of hours as well. Guys, thank you so much.
Thank you, Adam.
Love you.
Good having you here.
Cheers. See you guys next time.
Thank you guys so much for watching that video. I would be remiss if I didn't tell you we have some excellent merch. We have a 5-pack of demerit badges for sale right now at tested/store.com. We've got the I hung it off of level demerit badge, the I built the chair backwards demerit badge, the I hit my thumb with a hammer demerit badge. We've got the stapler in my finger demerit badge, and my favorite, I stuck the duct tape to itself demerit badge. Get yours now, tested/store.store. Tested-store. Tested. It's right here. There. Just click there.